Okay, I will introduce you, and then we can just jump in. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm joined now by the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the National Health Policy Chair for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign, and the U.S. Representative for Washington's 7th District, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's so great to be with you.
The Biden campaign announced yesterday that you're co-chairing the Unity Task Force on Healthcare with former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. What made you decide to accept this role, and what are you guys hoping to achieve?
Well, healthcare has been my thing for a while. I'm the
Yeah.
lead sponsor of Medicare for All in the House. I've been on your show to talk about this before, why I think healthcare is so essential. And I think the pandemic has showed us, anybody that wanted to argue with me before that employer covered healthcare was such a great choice. And I would
Yeah.
say, but if you lose your job, you've got no choice. Well, I don't need to make a theoretical argument now. I was obviously a huge supporter of Senator Sanders. That's the vision I ascribe to. But there is no progress that's possible with Donald Trump in the White House. And I think that I need to do everything I can to help Vice President Biden find a set of truly progressive policy platforms and that ones that he can authentically push forward because people can smell inauthenticity in politicians, as you know.
Right.
He's got to believe in it. And I am somebody who is very progressive, but I also understand the political process. And so I want to try to help the vice president to craft that set of policy proposals. And I want to help move the not me, us movement even further forward because I think we've done an amazing job and Senator Sanders did an amazing job. We have to get young people and immigrant communities and some of the communities that Senator Sanders really inspired to feel like the vice president is going to fight for them. And I had a 50-minute conversation with the vice president before I decided to endorse him. I mean, I was always going to endorse him, but the question is how enthusiastically. What do you do?
Right.
What role do you play? And so I wanted to be able to be enthusiastic about him, and I needed a conversation with him to just really understand and hear from him. And it was a very good conversation. I do believe he's very open to these ideas. And I think when they asked me to co-chair the task force, it seemed like an incredible opportunity to really be at the table and to bring the voices of people that I've been hearing from our movement. It's not really my voice, it's like all the people that we've been hearing to the
Yeah.
table and to help craft some real policy proposals that will make a difference. And it's a pretty amazing task force. I mean, I would have picked some of those people to help us figure out the problem. So Dr. Murthy obviously is, we had a wonderful initial conversation. We're having another one today. We're going to, have our first meeting of the task force on Saturday. Don Berwick on our side, Dr. Abdul El Said,
Yeah.
Mary Kay Henry. I mean, there's some, really wonderful people on this task force and on all of them. And I just hope that this can be the unity platform that actually moves us forward, not just saying showcase, not just like for show,
Right.
but actually helps us put together some policy proposals that do allow people to have some certainty around a real healthcare system that they can count on.
Just to nerd out for a second on the policy. So Biden's plan, I guess I would describe it as robust public option, more generous subsidies, and now lowering the Medicare age to 60. So obviously, he's probably not going to just embrace your Medicare for All bill or Bernie's Medicare for All bill. But in the middle, between where he is now and where you guys are, what kind of policy ideas? And I realize that this is going to have to be the work of the task force, but off the top of your head, what are some policy ideas you think are on healthcare that could be realistic for Biden to embrace?
Well, I think we should start with the principles, right? Before we get into the policies.
Yeah.
There's some things he can do that are really technical that will make a huge difference. There are some things he can do that were in the Affordable Care Act that have never been activated. But if the principle is, for example, and I really want the task force to do its work. So anybody who might be listening to this is not. I really want to be allowed to let the process work.
Totally.
But if we can come to some agreement around a national health insurance proposal within a certain number of years, that would be a huge step forward. It wouldn't be Medicare for all immediately. If we can come to some agreements around how to cut costs, because you can't, it's about access, it's about coverage, and it's about cost. And it's about the services. How comprehensive is it? You know, the quality of care. Those are all pieces that I think we can make significant progress on. And perhaps if we leave behind the label of Medicare for all, which obviously I'm attached to because I've been pushing this bill, but it's less important to me. You know, I don't, maybe we have to change the name for whatever it is that we come up with, so that we're not getting into this flashpoint argument. But I think that if we're going to, for example, if we're not going to be able to move to having everybody covered through a public plan, are there ways that we can ensure that if somebody does lose their employment, that they automatically do get covered? I mean, what are the ways that we can start to move us in the right direction? You know, can we look at the Medicare system and really think about some of the benefits of it, some of the problems with it? I mean, I think Medicare Advantage is a problem. And I don't know if the Biden people will agree with me there, but, you know, I think there are ways to strengthen the comprehensive set of services that are provided through Medicare. I think there are ways to perhaps, you know, we could look at ideas around, should employers offer a public option type plan as one of their options? They can opt into it. So I think there are all kinds of things, and, you know, I'm very open to what those might be. We've had an initial conversation sort of with, you know, with Don Berwick, who used to be the administrator for the Center for Medicaid Services, and Abdul and I, and, you know, and I hope that we can have a structure that allows for some of the best ideas to come forward, and we can debate them. Maybe there are things we've never thought about that other people have thought about. So I'm really excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. It's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but
no, it sounds exciting.
Yeah, and, you know, when you're an immigrant who came to the United States at 16 by yourself, you're used to pushing boulders up mountains. So I take that as a, you know, flex my rosy muscles.
Well, good luck to you. Last question on this. You know, you were talking about how you hear so much from sort of progressive activists. How confident are you that progressive support and enthusiasm, even from younger people, will follow sort of progressive policy in the Biden campaign, embracing progressive policy? Because obviously, you know, enthusiasm among younger voters, progressive voters, is a challenge. And I always wonder, is it policy based? Is it something else? What do you think about that?
It's a lot of things. And I'll tell you what I said to the vice president. You know, people have to, I mean, the one gift that he has is he is very authentic. I think people really, you know, he has an ability to connect with people on a human level that very few people do. And so I think that's a great strength. But he does need to have a vision that isn't just rooted in, here's what I did, you know, with President Obama. It's got to recognize that there were structural issues that were in this country, even during the Obama administration, before Trump came in. Trump is both a symptom and a cause.
Right. Yeah.
And so I said to the vice president, you know, 60% of Americans only had $400 in their bank account before the pandemic ever hit. That is what Trump exploited, is the fact that people feel left behind by government. They feel like government, you know, everybody in the administration, Congress, everything, that they are more interested in fighting for special interests than they are in fighting for real people. And I think that if Joe Biden has a set of really expansive policy proposals that recognize the pain that young people feel, you know, lecturing to young people is not a good idea. I'm the mom of a 23-year-old. I can tell you that perfectly well. I'm also the mom, stepmom of a 40-year-old, and it continues. You know, you got to, lecturing is not the way forward, and certainly not when they get to a certain age. And so you have to, I think they're right. I think I'm with our young people that we are, to use a technical term, screwing them. I mean, we're leaving them with a planet that's burning. We're leaving them with no health care, no real chance at a job, tons of debt on college. And so, what are we telling them? And I said to the vice president that this is not just about winning in November of 2020. It's also about what happens in 2024. Because if the next president, including a Democratic president, does not dramatically fix some of the income inequality, the racial inequity, the gender inequity, the healthcare inequity, then we will continue to leave the door open for another Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is both a symptom and a cause. And so he really needs to be able to fix some of these things and have an answer to young people, which is not, you guys are too naive, you're too, you don't understand. That's not what we can do. No, if politics is the art of the possible, then it is our job as activists, as organizers, and as elected officials to make the case for what is possible and to lead people through. People are looking for leadership. They're not looking for somebody to say, yeah, I did that 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I was a champion back then. Look, we're in a crisis, and we need people to recognize the pain and the devastation and the suffering that people have, and then be able to really say, I'm going to fight for you, and here's how I'm going to fight for you. Then I think people will come out. If it's half baked, if it's not, people are like, oh, I'm worried about the politics of this or whatever. People will sniff that right away, and they won't vote for Trump, but they'll stay home. And that will get us up and down the ticket.
Being a wet blanket has never been a winning political message. Well,
you guys, Obama didn't run on "No, we can't." He ran on
not.
"We can."
No.
Well, look, the good news is, I have been, some of the stuff you're saying right now, I've been hearing Joe Biden say this recently more and more over the last couple of weeks. So it seems like you're getting through, which is good news. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please come back anytime. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, you guys are wonderful. Thank you for the job you're doing on the podcast, and thanks for everything that you've contributed through your time in government and public service as well.
Well, thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you.